Hello and good evening, everyone. There's a famous quote from Grey's Anatomy that says, "We're all scared." I mean, if you aren't really scared, you're not really paying attention. Life is uncertain and tends to throw a curveball, whether we are prepared or not. Even in this unpredictability, the feeling of fear is constant. Seldom has any emotion more fundamental ever existed that has guided mankind towards its cognitive and social evolution. It is ubiquitous in all other forms of emotion. It is responsible for all the precautions that we take in our everyday life, be it wearing a mask before going out or sanitizing the environment because of the fear of a pandemic. Thus, it becomes all the more important to learn the power it musters. Fear itself can be used for good, other than an impediment in our self journeys, is a fascinating concept. But it has also been the guiding force behind many innovations and discoveries. We can use this power of fear to achieve our dreams and soar high while fearing our fall at the same time. The same power of fear shall and can indeed be used as a wind against our sail while we strive for things that are unimaginable and overwhelming. It will keep us going just a little bit longer, a little bit harder, and a little bit cautious as well. On the other hand, it is okay to fear the unknown and reserve our strides. So ultimately, the choice is in our hands. Either to use fear constructively, remake the boundaries and break the ceilings, or to hold back, wait, and let fear take the better of us. I welcome you all to TEDx IIMTrichy, and the topic for the day is the power of fear. It has not been long since our first speaker for the day, Sahiti Devi, moved to Malikipuram, a small town based in East Godavari, Andhra Pradesh. Yet, for the women of this town, the 29-year-old woman is their daughter. When she visits their home, they don't let her go without eating or without blessing her in abundance. But it took Eluru-born Sahiti some time to build this kind of a relationship. The relationship I am talking about comprises 8 weaver families and 5 tailors. The Guddapalli silk sarees they produce are being sold online through the power of social media and under the brand name Impact Scientist, which Sahiti founded in August last year. With just a laptop and rupees 5,000, Sahiti came back to India after pursuing her studies from San Francisco, took to social media with gusto, and started writing about the whole supply chain of various industries like brick, cashew, mango jelly, and many more. She moved to Mori, a village just 1 kilometer away from Malikipuram, and this is where the mission and vision of Impact Scientist started, was further redefined, which was to serve as a rural innovation platform that helps empower women of the villages. So come, let's hear about her story of the power of fear.
I feel very privileged to be talking on a platform, talking about my story from that phase of my life where I could bring the 3 main components, that is women, rural, and design thinking businesses onto the common platform in form of my business idea. And I'm in a position where I'm able to listen to my heart, and that is the greatest privilege I feel as a woman today in India that I hold for myself. It all started especially it began when I started doing my master's in social entrepreneurship from California, and I met people from more than 30 to 40 countries, and we were all learning about global crisis and social innovation, various social enterprises, the sustainable development goals, and how what is the face of social impact, and how do you derive them to, take them towards sustainable solutions. So my journey began when I did my master's, because until then I was not very confident about myself, about the journey I had chosen, my education, my past education, and my experience as a person in this world. I did not feel very confident, and it is after my master's, after meeting so many diverse people, I should be coming back to my country and I began my journey here. I started working for a social startup called Chazuba, and it gave me an immense experience working with so many different NGOs across the world, and I understood a lot about what is online volunteering and how is the digital platforms are going to be used for resolving social impact, or used as a driver to resolve the problems which are there in the social impact space, which needs all of us to act. And after 1 year of heading the partnerships vertical, I quit my job because I wanted to find my purpose even deeper. I wanted to go deeper into each problem, and I thought it's my time to set out my own path and start finding myself and my purpose. And that's how I began Impact Scientist. I quit my job and I was at home and, in front of the laptop, figuring out what to write, what is my area of choice, and whether I should go into non-profit space or whether I should work in CSR, or should I actually go back to volunteering for a few more months, but how is that going to financially sustain me? So these kind of, so I started having the fear. I started feeling very insecure. I felt like I am financially not stable anymore. I don't know the world, because environment is not limited to just our country or just our district or the town we live in. So environment is a problem that we as a world, we globally, all the countries need to come together and resolve this problem. So I could see the importance of the framework of the 17 sustainable goals. And so I started writing about the goals. And then I understood that I need to funnel down my interest, funnel down my work, or channelize my work into a narrower spectrum so that I can dive deep and really create the impact. So I chose goal number 5, that is gender equality, to resolve this, to start my journey and to move forward in my journey. And that's how I further started writing about what can gender equality do to the country. I read about a McKinsey report that India can unlock 25% of its economy by giving equal access to women and to resources, and if the women can participate in various activities and have access to the right educational, health and sanitation and the other policies that financially support women on different levels. So men and women should have equal resources and participation. And I was really, that was my key takeaway. At every step where I was confused, at every point where I felt the unrest, I felt scared, I just went more deeper and I found the answers as I moved forward. I knew that I can't give up. I knew that there is something that I need to arrive to. There is something more to this. It's not about just bringing solutions to the world, but I think we have to redefine and re-understand the whole dynamic of how problems are defined. We need to look at the problems with different eyes. So that is how different keywords, the different important aspects of Impact Scientist fell into place. I wanted to move from one place to another, discover what is already not there, empower women and bring out their stories, especially from rural India, because India is a skill-based country. So education, basic education is important for everyone, but more important than education is the combination of skill along with the education. How many hours can you work? So there are internally deep-rooted foundational aspects in a woman's life in the society which she needs to actually learn fighting. And across, if you actually make it to the other side, and if you are strong enough to voice your needs and voice your what your heart is saying, and if you want to follow that journey, only after that woman gets a chance to show her potential to the world. So I felt that I want to write about few powerful women who have made it big in the media industry, in the government, in the corporates. I wrote some 10 stories about them. And after the 10 stories, writing about 10 successful women, I felt like there are so many women out there. In fact, most of the women who are living in India are living in the rural ecosystem. And almost all the women in the rural ecosystem are also involved in some or the other workforce, like agriculture, or the milk industry, or the handmade industry, or the weaving industry, or the brick industry, or the bamboo industry. So I relocated myself from Hyderabad. That's where I was living, in Hyderabad, and I relocated from Hyderabad to a village called Rajahmundry, and I went and worked with indigenous sweets supply chains and brick supply chain, the bamboo artisans supply chain, the weaving supply chain, and mango jelly, cashew supply industries. I visited, I spoke to the women, I spent a day there, I kind of got an idea of where all women are involved in the supply chain and what are the problems they're facing, and what could be the possible policy interventions and what is being executed well and not well, and where all we as various stakeholders, NGOs, corporates, and the government and individuals can play a role in bringing intervention to these people. And from there, I again moved to a place called Mori, where I worked with 3 villages and did a small pilot project on understanding the weavers in this country. So I worked with 3 villages and 8 weaving families. So how are they getting the yarn? What is the cotton material, and what are the problems? How is the weather impacting the weavers, and how are they not able to resource the capital, and what is the problem in marketing their products? Are they able to use the digital technology properly? Are we able to provide them the digital skills, and is it important really to? So these are the kind of factors and elements we dived deep into about the weavers, and came up with some beautiful case studies and stories of how weavers are placed, and how are their lives being affected, and how can we restore the indigenous ways of weaving and still provide a very sustainable platform to weavers. And from there, find these stories and bring those stories out. I think the real inspiration comes from around us, and whatever is already available on the net, or the stories which are already available are very different from what we discover, because when you say redefining the problems, we have to go to the ground, and we have to learn, we have to unlearn, and we have to relearn. And this whole process of moving from one place to another, discovering various women entrepreneurs, helps me grow. And this is the deep-rooted, I would say the deep-rooted, most driving factor of my life. I just want to give my whole life to this. And in this journey, I have met the most amazing people. And the kind of story every human whom I interact with in this journey gives me the strength to move forward and to keep dreaming more, because I think India is a jackpot. India is a beautiful collection of diverse cultures and diverse people. And in this journey, it's very important that I use my skill. For me as a child, the most difficult thing was leaving Bhopal, where I was brought up, and I was living for most of the time of my life, and moving away from my people, moving away from my culture, moving away from my the way I had lived as a child, to where I was actually born. But letting go of one place and creating your extended family, and creating your friends, or creating your community, and bringing people together after letting go of one set of what you've already created once, left a very huge impact on me. But I realized the beauty of letting go something and moving forward to find more. So I have a deep attachment of this realization, which has remained inside me. So, and as a kid, I would always tell everyone that I want to be a journalist, and then I used to tell people that I want to be a social journalist, although I did not exactly mean what it means. I kind of put the keywords I like together. But ultimately, as impact scientist from Bhopal, I moved to Andhra Pradesh, and then I went back to Hyderabad, from where I Again, for my bachelor's, I lived in a very small town where my grandparents used to live, and I did my bachelor's in B Farm. So all those experiences, although I'm not using my education stream of bachelor's in my in pharmacy into my current life, but those experiences and meeting so many people, and every part of your life, every person you meet, who help you discover yourself, kept me going. I look back and, there are no regrets. So this whole spirit, converged and got created into something. It grew inside me, and I also didn't know. I went back to United States to do my master's and came back to Hyderabad and felt the unrest again. I went back to Sri Lanka. So I think I always embraced my confusion, and every time I was confused and every time I would think something out of the box, or if something crazy, which is, which not everyone is doing. Obviously, my family and my close people would initially resist it, and then I could kind of convince my father every time, and he really understood my explanations, and he gave me the push. And after Sri Lanka, I came back to India again, and I started working, and then from the city I went to a village, and now I'm in Auroville, which is there is a lot of diversity, and there are so many things you can learn and dream and innovate from here. So in this journey, every time I got scared, I got the push. I got new set of ideas. I got new power. I felt everything which resisted, everything which scared me is what helped me grow in my life. So I hope that you embrace your fears, face your fears, and deal with your fears to see the other side. Because every time fear comes to you, fear always converts into something that creates you into a stronger person for a bigger cause and a deeper purpose in life. My story is just about discovering the stories of power, discovering the stories of survival, discovering the stories which fought through, and discovering those stories to bring them into the mainstream market, to scale up those enterprises and, amplify the effect of the sustainability they bring into the world. Every woman I meet gets engraved into me. Her story becomes a part of my life. Everybody's learnings are my wisdom now, and everybody's experiences are my story now. I'm impact scientist. My dream is to be a catalyst in bringing India to that day where we could all proudly scream and be able to share the fact that every woman in India is free, every woman in India is able to make a choice, and every village enterprise, takes the mainstream market linkages and try to convert their businesses into, scalable enterprises.
A cabinet, refrigerator, stove, kitchen sink, cupboard, beanbag, and bed. It's perfect for single person occupancy, but I am not talking about a 1 BHK flat here. This is a caravan, and Vimal Geetanandan, our next speaker, a traveler best known as inspiring wanderer in southern India, who grew up in Andhra Pradesh and lives out of this van as he travels around. He's well known for traveling 18 states of India without a single rupee. Vimal embarked on his journey from Anantapur, Andhra Pradesh in July 2016. Hitchkicked on motorcycles, cars, bus, trucks, he traveled by train too, where he was helping other people. On his journey, he met people from different walks of life, and Vimal says that he never remembers people's faces. Rather, he treasures the love that they shower on him and their emotions towards him. Currently, Vimal is one of the co-founders of Maya, a mobile beverage truck that carries him everywhere and helps him explore new places. As the name suggests, Vimal did the magic to make Maya his home on wheels. Come, let's see what he has to say about our topic for the day, the power of fear.
When I tell people that I'm a nomad and traveling in India for more than 4 years now in various capacities, including without money for the most part, And on top of that, when I tell them that I live in my own self-converted van home, the most common question people ask me is, Vimal, don't you have fear? I do have fear. We have been conditioned to believe fear is bad, that we shouldn't get afraid. Somehow, fear will not let you grow, etc. and etc. But that isn't right. Fear isn't bad in itself. It's the most basic emotion. It's the basis of survival. When you're standing before a lion, you should get afraid. You can't go and take a selfie. As I said, fear isn't bad. The way you channelize it will become the deciding factor. So I do have fear. I still remember the day I left home. It was July 1st, 2016, more than 4 years back. I didn't have a single rupee in my hand. Not even any kind of perishable food. I don't know how I'm going to survive. I don't know whether I'm going to travel even 100 kilometers. I don't know whether I'm going to get a place to stay. I don't know whether I'm going to get food to eat. On top of that, I was carrying a lot of things. My phone, my laptop, my camera, etc. and etc. So my friends told me, you'll definitely get robbed and we'll be back in 10 days. We'll be waiting for you. But I didn't stop. I channelized it. Now, no matter how much I say that I didn't have fear at that point of time, I was very positive. I was positive, but subconsciously I did have fear. Because obviously I'm taking lifts from strangers, staying at various places. But that fear helped me make certain decisions. I chose to stay at places where there's always some kind of crowd, or where there's no one for kilometers, no in between. I chose to not travel at night. This helped me stay at various places. I stayed in bus stands, railway stations, petrol bunk, even at a police station. I stayed from places starting from a hut to a 5-star hotel. I stayed at places starting from a flat in a big apartment to a villa whose balcony opens into a river. Even with my van now, I park at various random places. I park with view of sea sometimes. Sometimes it would be huge agricultural fields. And sometimes it would be petrol bunks or at people's home. So the fear helped me talk to people, talk to strangers, help me find places, thus make conversations with people, thus help me become a better person. I remember I was going to Munnar, someone put me in a bus, and there's a boy sitting beside me. He asked me, do you know Tamil? I said yes. Probably saw my bag and probably has assumed that I'm a traveler and all. So he asked me, do you know Tamil? I said yes. We started talking. And in the middle I asked him, can I pitch my tent somewhere in Munnar? Because I don't have a place to go. He told me, no, you cannot. Because it's raining like cats and dogs in Munnar. You cannot pitch a tent anywhere. Then I asked him, can I stay in the bus stand in Munnar? Then he told me, you can't, because police will come and you do a lot of moral policing and will ask you a lot of questions. You can't do that. Then I thought to myself, okay, I'll figure out a way somehow. Then what happened? We resumed talking, and after some time he told me, please come to my home in the morning. I'll show you some places around. Then I immediately asked him, can I come tonight? Because I don't have a place. At that point of time, though I didn't realize, though it was an immediate question, it was coming from the place of fear. Because I really didn't have a place to go. It was raining crazily And as soon as I land in Munnar, I don't know what to do. It was definitely coming from the place of fear. That is why I asked him. So, though it was all happening subconsciously, then he told me, see, I'm a dependent. I have to ask my father. He was a teenage kid and he was going to college. So I said yes. Okay, fine. Then he called his father. His father didn't agree. Obviously, I'm a complete stranger. Then I said, okay, it's fine. We'll figure out something. Then we reached Munnar. He has to go some 30 kilometers from Munnar. He has to catch the last bus which was moving. He has to literally run, But at that point of time, he told me, pick up your bags and follow me. I was confused. I said, what? You said your father didn't agree, then how? He told me, I'll somehow manage my father, but I can't leave you here. That moment, I had tears in my eyes. Then we ran, we caught the bus, we reached his place. His mother gave me fish curry. It's the best fish curry I ever had. His whole home is not even big as most rooms in most homes. They all slept on the floor and they gave me the only bed in their home, despite of my refusal a lot of times. And the place is also beautiful. It's a small tribal village and it's surrounded by hills, and it was full moon that day. And the next morning when I wake up, I saw a lot of waterfalls. Wherever I see, there was a waterfall. In the morning when I was leaving, his father gave me a 100 rupee note. That boy took me around, showed me a lot of places and put me in a bus. If that day I didn't have fear and I didn't choose to conquer that fear, I wouldn't have asked him that question. I wouldn't have met them. This wouldn't have been possible. I remember I was in Coorg, a place in Karnataka. I was staying in a bus stand. It was raining crazily. And I searched for places to pitch my tent, but I couldn't find. So I went to the shopkeeper there and I asked him, can I sleep just beside your shop, because I want to, I don't know where to go and all. He said, okay, you can sleep. Then that day I slept. I went into my sleeping bag. I hugged my bag and slept. I wouldn't have done that if I didn't have fear. Because I was definitely afraid. I'm staying in a bus stand. But I enjoyed it. But I was definitely afraid. Fear lets you take decisions, lets you be safe. It's beautiful. But most of us stop there itself. Fear for most of us is bad. For most of us, we don't conquer it. Fear lets us stop doing things we love. Fear will not let us take risks. That's bad. Fear is beautiful. Understand it, respect it, embrace it, and conquer it. Because people who do things they love to do are happier people. Happier people make a happier world. I dream of that world. Thank you.
Our next speaker for today, Jaspal Gudara, is an engineer, teacher, and a social entrepreneur. He started teaching underprivileged children in his college days and then founded an NGO, Prayas Corps, and now runs Prayas Ki Pathshala school in various parts of the country to remove child begging with their model of pathshalas for beggars. Currently, almost 3,000 underprivileged children are studying in these schools. He is also a recipient of the Karamveer Chakra Award, which is a global civilian honors given by International Confederation of NGO and United Nations. He likes reading biographies of revolutionaries and thinkers. He aspires to be a change maker for the Indian society, and he is here to share his thoughts on the topic for the day, Power of Fear.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be over here on this platform. I must start my story, and my story dates back to the 20th century. It's not like that I was born in that century. The story revolves around my grandfather, who used to live in one of the backward villages of Bardmer. He was a small, marginalized, poor, and an illiterate farmer. He faced so many hardships during his lifetime that he realized that he will be providing quality education to his son. He ensured that all his four sons receives quality education. One of his sons became a government servant. His another son became a successful lawyer at Rajasthan High Court. My father. My father ensured that I too receive a quality better and slightly better education. And here I am as a social entrepreneur, an engineer, a teacher by heart, and an UPSC aspirant. This is one part of the story. When we look around the world, when we see the superpower of the worlds, when we see US, when we see Japan, when we see Europe, we find that every country emphasis on the education of their children and results into the superpower. None of the country of the world have become superpower without providing a quality and better education, without ensuring that each and every child in their country receives better education. But when it comes to our country, we find that more than 12 million children are out of the school. When it comes to India, we find that more than 10 million children are engaged in child labor. When it comes to India, we find that our children are begging on the nukkeds, on the road lights. When it comes to India, we find that India is home to the 1/3 of the total children who are affected by malnourishment. When it comes to India, we find that there are many people who dies because of hunger, starvation. On the other hand, we aspire to become a 5 trillion US dollar economy. On the other hand, we aspire to become the world most powerful country in Asian region. On the other hand, we claims that we have the youngest population in the entire world. On the other hand, we claims we have the best IT professionals in the entire world who are working in United States of America. Keeping in mind all these aspirations and all these facts, when we look at the other side of the picture, when we find that more than 12 million students, children are out of school and are engaged in labor work, are engaged in begging, we find that in what an ironical world we are living in. We have seen the expertise of Indians in so many areas. We are also experts in producing great numbers. We are 130 CR right now, and we will be 145 CR by the end of 2025. This is not our aspiration, but we will be. That means the younger generation, the youths, needs to work on. If the youths decides, if the youths believe in their potential, if the youths believe in their power, they can change the destiny of a country, India. If the youths decides to act upon, then the destiny of this great country can be changed and India can again become a Vishwaguru. I remember during my college days, I had a great, of course, everybody is patriotic, and I had a dream that I should build something which we can actually contribute back to the society. At that time, I was highly inspired by Bhagat Singh and the freedom fighters who laid away their lives, who gave supreme sacrifice for this country so that we can see the independent dawn. On seeing all this, on realizing all this, I, along with my friends, started visiting different colleges of Jaipur, and we engaged the youth, we engaged the college students so that we all can collectively work towards the societal cause of illiteracy and to eradicate the menace of child labor. we decided to adopt one slum area. And when we went to that slum area, we found that there is a deep trust issue between the parents and the civil society and the government. The parents believed, since they have been experiencing that their children have been sex trafficked, have been kidnapped, and hence they couldn't believe on anyone. The result was they permitted us to teach their children, but only in the slum area. Finally, when we started teaching the children of those that slum, we ensured that more than 400 to 500 youngsters on a yearly basis, on a daily basis, around 10 to 20 youngsters contributed their 2 hours to teach those children. We made them our own friends, and after seeing the hard work of us for a longer period of 1 year, the parents decided, yes, we are there for changing the fortunes of them, we are here to change the fortunes of the children, and hence they permitted us to take the children outside. Finally, we came up with an idea of opening a free school where we were providing good quality education to all these children. We were providing the meals, the skills, so that we can train this childhood generation to become good citizens of our country. The same model slowly and gradually grew up and was spreaded in the entire city of Jaipur. Today, it gives me immense pleasure to inform you that we are transforming the lives of 3,000 underprivileged children who were earlier engaged into child begging and child labor. In the entire story, we have found that if we focus on building the leadership, if we focus on creating the social youth leadership, then the societal problems can be solved out. But we needs to be somewhat serious. We needs to be focused on. We needs to be realizing our potential. Then only the result which we saw in the last story can be achieved. The irony, like our leaders are discussing about eradicating the child labor, and while having a cup of tea, we are like, "Hey chotu, a cup chai lana." These ironical situations won't work. We need to be seriously dedicating ourselves in making our society and country of the dreams of the freedom fighters, Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar, and so many. We have seen that the people in referring to earn the money and in building organizational one, we have often seen that the people are promoting slum tourism nowadays. The tourists are coming and they are visiting the slum areas and they are looking around the poverty scenarios of our country. The people are promoting slum tourism, the people are promoting and chest beating all this around. We have seen nowadays that the people are engaged into slum tourisms. They are visiting any slum areas, they are taking the photographs and they are claiming that yes, the change can be brought. If in such a way the things will be carried out, leave aside the change, the people will lose the trust of those people. They are the ones who have faced historical exploitation, and the result was very keen that there was a deep trust divide between the privileged society and the underprivileged society. Via our engagement with the younger generation, we have proved that the privileged community can be connected with the underprivileged community. The requirement is our keen involvement, our dedicated work, and whatever we are preaching, we need to adopt the same. Bhaiya chai lana wala chalta wala attitude won't work over here, and we need to seriously ponder upon that how we all can together contribute and make our country, our society, a better country to live in, a safer place to live in. We have realized that the same slum children to whom we are teaching, we are conducting annual functions every year, and we have seen that the same children are performing in front of the larger crowds of 1,000 to 2,000 audiences, and they are performing in a better way. The civil society members, the bureaucrats to whom we are calling and involving, they are amazed to see that the slum children have enormous talent. And yes, change can be brought if the younger generation gets involved into it. India, being the demographic dividend wala country where more than 60% of our crowd is youth, we need to push in, we need to bring in this potential of the younger generation. We need to focus on building the young leadership, then only the change can be cherished. Otherwise, there will be many sarcasms, and India will always be dreaming of making our economy of 5 trillion US dollar once, and on the other side, we will find the data of the children involved into child labor will keep on increasing and will keep on increasing. We have been focusing on empowering the slum parents. We have been preparing the women into many skills. We have been training them into stitching, into making them bags of old jeans, of recycled ones, so that if they will be empowered, if they will be employed, then their children will surely be receiving a better, a safe future and a good education. Education is key to success and is also a key of making our country a place of our dreams. Thank you so much, everyone.
Our next speaker is Mr. Harish Iyer. He is an Indian equal rights activist who engages in advocacy for a number of causes, including promoting the rights of the LGBTQ community, children, women, animals, and survivors of child sexual abuse. Harish Iyer is the founder of the Jimmy Foundation, an organization that stands for the values of equality and justice, irrespective of gender, caste, sexuality, or species. He's an active voice for a number of causes and is known as one of the most prominent people who moved Supreme Court on Section 377 and contributed in winning the historic verdict. He's the only Indian national to be featured on the World Pride Power List, a list of 100 most influential people of the LGBTQ community across the world. He has won the Zindagi Live Award by CNN IBN for his work with many survivors of child sexual abuse and was honored with the Energizing Bharat Award by Bharat Petroleum. Harish lives with his two children, a feline called Krishna and a canine called Sonia. He is an eternal optimist who believes that he can change the world one heart at a time. Let's see what he has to say about the power of fear.
Fear. We all speak about fear as this monster that lurks us. But the truth is that the fear of fear is scarier than fear itself. We often speak about conquering fears, overcoming fears. Today, I'm going to be speaking about living with fear. I'm going to be speaking about facing fear. Not fighting it, facing it. We all have different kinds of fears, and that's a part of our existence. I truly don't know of anyone who is truly unafraid. Some people have the fear of dying. There are some others who are fearing that they would be living when their loved ones would be dead. Some people are thinking about dying in a different way. They're speaking about dying of a relationship or a social status. Well, I know that we all have these fears, and my talk over here is not going to be about completely overcoming these fears, but living with them. I have my share of fears as well. The fear of judgments. the fear of feeling or being touched by another animal, another species. The fear of being touched by my own species. I had some of these fears. I have some of these fears now. I had the fear of judgment in the sense that I've had my challenges, my share of challenges in life. And I've always had the fear that if I keep repeating those challenges, I would get typecast, I would get labeled, I would be told in many forums that I'm actually a crybaby, that somewhere my fears are invalid because I keep crying about it, I keep speaking about it. The fear of getting typecast was a fear that I had. And to be honest with you, I have that fear right now too. Now, what I'm going to speak about at this stage is something that needs a trigger warning. So, if you are faint hearted, if you have gone through any kind of abuse in life and this would be triggering to you, I would suggest that you stop watching now or watch with supervision. So here's my story. I am a survivor of child sexual abuse. I was raped. I was raped when I was 7 years of age. So I constantly lived my childhood in duality. A life that I was sexually assaulted and the life that I was not sexually assaulted. So I had the fear of facing my truth. There were these two parallel lines that were just, this is one aspect of my life, the life that I was not raped, the life that I was raped. And I didn't want the life that I was not raped to meet the life that I was raped, because that would have been devastating for me. I wouldn't have known at that age, at the tender age of 7, how to deal with something like that. I didn't even have the right vocabulary. When I grew a little older, I started developing the vocabulary, but by that time I was already gang raped. So by the time I was like 15 or 16, when I started understanding the word rape and molestation and devastation and all these big words, I already had faced something that I feared the most. I was completely worn out. I was psychologically distant. I was frustrated. I was worried. I was scared of judgments even more than what I was before. And the fear of people looking at me as a damaged piece made me scarier. So what did I do? Did I conquer my fears? I didn't. I went deep into the abyss. I developed the familiarity with the black hole. And I somehow developed this ability that, I'm not going to go and ever face my fear. So I would rather dig deep in the space that I'm in. So it was like a quicksand. So others abused my body. And by the time my sexuality developed, I started abusing my own body. Because abuse was the only physical touch I had known. And I thought that at some point, when I plunge into the depths of despair, I will somehow emerge like a jack in the box, just pop out of it. So I went deeper. I dug deeper. because I started, the fear that I had was about hating my body, and I started hating my body. And I thought that possibly I deserved only this much. So I had the fear of losing something, and I lost. Until one day where I was faced by another fear that I had in my life, the fear of being touched kindly by someone from my own species or another species. I just thought that that touch could change my life, and I knew that touch could change my life, but I also feared that. So there was this day when my dog came and he started licking me, and I conquered that one fear of being touched kindly by somebody. Here was an animal that I feared the most. I was not cruel to dogs, or I never wanted them out of the world, out of the universe that I live in. But I was scared, petrified of pets. I didn't think that they were pests, but I was petrified by them. And here was an animal which was giving me love. The thing that I feared the most loved me the most. And I dared, for once, to not just face and cohabit with my fear, but actually return the love that the thing, the animal that I feared the most was showing towards me. The truth is that fear loves us more, and sometimes we need to love our fears too. Make fears your peers. That's what I did. I started loving my dog. I started speaking to my dog. And that fear that had become my peer was a beacon of hope for me. I started speaking about animal rights, and there was this one day that the love of the animal that I feared the most became the reason why I faced my abuser. Not as somebody who was subjugated, but as somebody who had the power to look eye to eye at the same level. I looked into his eyes. I raised my eyebrows. I felt air in my lungs, and I screamed, "No! No!" And that was the time my abuse stopped. Then I started speaking about it. I had to face another fear of what will people think. So I faced it. I let people think what they thought. I knew that there would be umpteen number of judgments, and this is my ticket to fame. The fear of this being the only identity that I have. The truth is, sometimes for some people, this is the only identity, only way that they know me. as somebody who conquered the fear. But today, I speak eloquently, openly, and I face my fear. My fear is my friend. It keeps me alive. I still have fears. I have the fear of losing my loved ones. I have the fear of not not getting a text back sometimes, or never looking at somebody I love and the person would not speak to me forever. What if my parents die? Let me come back to what I started with. The fear of fear is scarier than fear itself. Now, I acknowledge these fears. I allow them to live and cohabit, not with me sometimes, but in me sometimes. I don't want to lose a relationship thinking that I will lose a relationship. I want to face it. I want to try speaking. I want to try mending. I want to try working towards it and making things happen. I don't want to live in the fear that my parents would die one day and just live in that fear. I want to ensure that life is happy for me and them while we are living, because the fear of loss is inevitable. We will lose everyone, and we can't lose our mind over it. But when we acknowledge the existence of fear and we give it a place within our hearts and our souls to inhabit, we don't conquer them. They become a part of us. They encourage us. I know that there are some fears that I've yet not faced, and I'm sure that you have some fears that you have not faced as yet. Well, in due course of time, life will bring you to a point where you may have to face them. And when you face them, don't fight them. Coexist with them. Let your fear propel you further rather than limiting you. Don't lose something because you fear something. Make fear your friend and let it be a motivation for you. Let it propel you further, like a jack in the box. May you spring up in action because of your fears and not be limited by it. And on that note, I love you. And yes, the fear of fear is scarier than fear itself.
Our next speaker is indeed very special because he's from the PGPM batch 2020 of our very own college, IIMTrichy. Vikramaditya Khanolkar is a para-athlete who is extremely passionate about sports. His near-death experience has helped him conquer fear and achieve great heights. He has mastered swimming single-handedly and wants to be a leading example for other physically challenged individuals. He aspires to win a medal for India in para sports and work towards the welfare of differently abled community in future. He also wants to be a motivational speaker and through this platform This shall be the best way for him to aspire other individuals through his experience. He is here to share his views on the topic, the power of fear.
Hello everyone. I'm here to share a really unique story with you today about a cheerful and ambitious person who's been really passionate about sports since his childhood. However, he met with a really severe accident, a near-death experience, in which he lost his left arm and he went through several other injuries. This accident happened when he was just 17 years old, and it happened just a couple of months after his 12th board exams, and it left him bedridden and hospitalized for more than 2 months, and it made him physically challenged for life. However, he was not going to let this unfortunate circumstance get into the way of his passion, and he wanted to continue pursuing sports, and he did not want to let anything lower his spirits. However, this has been a journey full of ups and downs, and it's something which should be shared. Yes, you guessed it right. I'm talking about myself. My name is Vikramaditya. I want to share my journey with you today about becoming physically challenged, but still continuing my pursuit of para sports. The sports I'm going to talk to you about today are swimming, table tennis, and badminton. These three sports have been something I've been pursuing since the last 3 years since my accident happened. So when my accident happened, I could see that it really affected my family and close friends, and it made me go through a lot of physical and mental trauma. However, I had made up my mind that this is not how my story was going to end. I had to shape my own journey, and I was not going to let external circumstances get into the way of it. So starting on the accident, I was bedridden for 2 months, and my knee was also causing me a lot of problems, and I had to wear a knee brace to start walking. A few months from then, I realized that the sports I used to be passionate about in school, which are football and cricket, are not sports I could continue to play anymore. So I decided to start with a sport which did not require a lot of physicality, which was table tennis. Table tennis was a sport which I could play despite my injury, and I wanted to play through the pain barriers, and I knew that it was not very injury prone, and it was something which I could continue to pursue by developing my skill and technique. A few months after after I started playing table tennis, I had to go through another knee surgery, and this left me bedridden for another month and a half, and I had to do ongoing physiotherapy for recovery of my knee. So I was a little low on spirits that this slowed me down and my momentum had broken. However, I was determined to come back stronger from this surgery. So after my knee recovered, I focused a lot on physiotherapy and making my bone stronger. Once I thought that the bone had become better, I started slowly getting back to brisk walking, and I started playing table tennis just once a week. I realized that things cannot be rushed, and I tried to increase the frequency gradually. I really was determined to play this and win accolades in it, and I ended up winning the tournament in my undergraduate college. Moving on from table tennis, I want to talk to you about how I got into swimming. Swimming is the para sport I'm the most passionate and enthusiastic about, and it came my way in a very unexpected manner. So during my recovery of the knee surgery, my physiotherapist had told me to walk into the swimming pool and just walk in the water. He did not advise me to swim, he asked me just to walk in the water to improve the stability and strength of my knee. So a few weeks went when I was just used to walk into the water, and I started remembering the times in my childhood when I used to really enjoy swimming recreationally during the summer season. So I realized that I should still try to experiment and try to balance single-handedly, and I just tried by staying into the shallow part of the pool, and I used to just do a few meters, and it was getting a little tough for me to balance, but I wanted to persevere the discomfort, and I tried to continue balancing myself and tried to improve my breathing technique. A few weeks later, I even went into the depth, although it was a little dangerous. I thought going into the depth of the pool would increase my confidence, and it would make me more determined to master my technique all over again. So learning swimming single-handedly after I used to swim very normally when I was in school and stuff was it was very different, but I was really enjoying the experience, and it made me feel more confident, and it started increasing my stamina. However, I had to overcome the consciousness of swimming in a public pool, considering my injuries. So I did have that fear of being a little conscious appearance-wise in the public pool, but I overcame that fear because I really wanted to become better at swimming and master swimming single-handedly. So a few months later, when the summer season arrived, I went to a crash course training under a specialized coach, and he really helped me improve my technique and breathing ability. And under his guidance, I participated in the Maharashtra State Para Swimming Championship, and I successfully completed the course, and I stood 5th out of 12 participants. These participants had been swimming since their childhood, and they were adapted to para swimming. However, I just swimming in maybe a year, I ended up successfully participating in it, and this ended up increasing my confidence even more. Through my experience with para swimming, I learned a lot. I realized that one must persevere against obstacles, and they should keep experimenting with themselves, because every problem cannot have just one solution. So we should be creative and try to find different solutions to different problems. And there should always be a risk-taking ability, and you should not always play it safe, because I do not think that always playing it safe and by people's expectations and rules is going to make you go really far. When you are taking chances and you're being creative, that's when real solutions are found, and you can really grow as an individual. Moving on to another unique experience I had. There was this video game on my PS console which I used to love playing back in school and junior college, and the name of it is FIFA. So when an accident happened, I was very upset that I could not play it anymore, because this game requires two hands functioning all the time in a very rapid manner, and it requires a lot of coordination between all the 10 fingers. So when I saw my PS console just lying, I thought I was going to sell it because I could not play anymore, and this made me really upset. However, one day I was just sitting at my room, and I just thought that maybe I can still play somehow, and I'm just going to try out and switch on the console and try to play the game despite being single-handed. So in the starting, I used to be really good at the game back then, and in the starting when I started off, now I was really struggling to even adapt. However, I learned how to play single-handedly eventually. I realized that the left analog, which I would be using with my left hand earlier, could be controlled with the help of my jaw. So I started playing with the help of my jaw, and I started coordinating my hand and jaw movements to try to excel at the game. Just 6-7 months into the game, even though my wrist used to hurt trying to coordinate, I ended up becoming almost as good as I used to be before. And even in my school and junior college, I had won some friendly tournaments amongst my social circle. And this time I participated in professional tournaments, and I ended up winning tournaments despite playing with individuals who were really good at the game. They had been playing since years, and they were playing in a very normal condition. However, I tried to challenge the odds, and I started playing single-handedly, and I ended up winning the tournament. This was one of my greatest achievements, and it was something which made me feel very empowered. There are a lot of other physically challenged people out there who have been inspiring others through their examples. They are really passionate, and you can see that they are truly differently abled, and they are able to stand out in a crowd. So I would like everyone to look at us through our capabilities and not be very sympathetic or underestimating towards us, since there are a lot of people out there who are setting good examples, and we need some encouragement and support from everyone to try to continue towards our goals. I have myself swam alongside a blind swimmer, and seeing her passion was really something that motivated me. There are people who are swimming with no vision, there are people who are swimming with no arms and no legs, and seeing these examples really motivates me. And I want to set such an example, and I want to be a part of the change in which people are able to look at differently able people with more positivity and more inclusivity. So moving forward, I want to pursue as many sports as I can. So I've started to play badminton since my knee is already better now. So from table tennis, I'm also progressing towards badminton, and I'm going to start learning different strokes during swimming. So I've been restricting myself towards freestyle currently, but I'm also going to try to learn backstroke and butterfly stroke. And I want to try to experiment with different sports, and hopefully the sport football, which is my favorite sport and I've not been able to play it because of certain physicality problems, would be something I would be able to play again, and it would be something that will increase my passion towards sports. So I would just like to end by saying that we are the masters of our own fate, and focus on your capability and not on your disability.
Last but not the least, Dheeraj Singh is a business leader who has successfully established and led several businesses in the infrastructure, services, and financial sectors in India and abroad. He has completed his mechanical engineering degree from IIT Mumbai, MBA, and MIM from USA. Born and brought up in a small town from where he traveled to study and work in different cities, both in India and abroad, he has always excelled, both in studies and sports, while remaining a big movie buff. He is a keen observer of people from different cultural and social backgrounds and enjoys interacting with them and listening to their stories. Being an engineering and science student, he found the new dimension very baffling as well as interesting. He started to study and believe in alternative science, a science which he now believes exists but is not understood. His books in the series, Fables of Fatal Fate, are interesting fictional stories creatively woven around the fabric of his alternative science theories. He is also the author of several other books like Get One by Two, My Experiments with Meditation, and Fate of Eight. He is here today with all of us to share about his fears and how he overcame them.
Hi everyone, you can hear the water behind me. Water is the only thing that I am really afraid of. That's why I've kept the water on and see how I can overcome this fear of mine. My name is Dheeraj Singh. I'm going to be talking about the power of fear. The first thing that comes to mind when you talk about power of fear is, I thought, is it a topic about the fear of power, which is more prevalent in today's time. But then on introspection, I thought the power of fear is a very powerful subject by itself. There are two popular dialects in Hindi that come to my mind, which are relevant in this context. जो डर गया समझो मर गया. Living in fear is as bad as not living. The other one used in an advertisement slot is called डर के आगे जीत है. Just ahead of fear is the path to victory. Both are very contradictory statements and both are in the extreme. I don't think fear is either of these. So let's talk about fear, what it is actually. Fear is a threat from real or imagined danger to physical, psychological, or emotional well-being. It's an anxious feeling caused by our anticipation of some imagined event or experience. That's the technical definition of fear. So what does fear do? It causes the fight or flight response. Do you know that we are born with just two fears? The fear of loud sound and the fear of falling. The fear of falling is good because our forefathers had monkeys. I hope they had this fear, otherwise they would keep falling down from the branches. There are two kinds of fears, the rational fear or the irrational fears, which are called the phobias. On a lighter note, there's something called Venusatrophobia, which is the fear of beautiful women. How can anyone fear beautiful women? There are 5 main categories of fear which classify the rational side of the fear. The first is the extinction, fear of extinction, which is the fear of annihilation, of ceasing to exist, the fear of death. The second is the fear of mutilation, losing part of your body, having your body's boundaries invaded. The third is the loss of autonomy, the fear of being immobilized, paralyzed, restricted, overwhelmed, entrapped, imprisoned, all of these which are controlled by circumstances beyond our control. The fourth is the fear of separation, which is the fear of abandonment, rejection, loss of connectedness. And the last but not the least is the fear of ego death, which is the fear of humiliation, of shame. Now that we know all these categories of fear, let us know what the famous man Nelson Mandela once said. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but it is he who conquers that fear. Very powerful. And when you conquer anything, what do you do with it? You use your conquest. You use what you conquer. That is your power and the power of fear. We can all use this power of fear to grow and evolve. Life is, after all, a sum of experiences. And the experiences of fear are the most important category in this, in my view. So let us look at 10 ways of how the power of fear is created and how we can use them to grow. I will use and cite many personal examples to illustrate the points better. Many of them are very personal. So I hope you keep it to yourselves. So let us start with the first one. In my school days, I was traveling to Darjeeling for a cricket match with my seniors. I was the youngest one. Suddenly the toy train stopped. We all got down and we thought we'll catch it up. The train started moving fast and I couldn't jump back on the train. I was so afraid. I was scared to death. I started running behind the train. It was out of sight, but I ran probably the fastest I ever did in the middle of the forest. And that helped me to see and catch the train when it was coming back to climb an incline. So that was the fear which kept me safe. Another part related to safety is the security. A few years ago, again, by some fortune or misfortune, I lost a large part of my fortune. And I actually had the fear of the security of my family. How will I take care of them? That fear led me to come back into the corporate life. So, number one, safety and security. Very important. What fear can keep us. It can give us safety and security. The second is, all of you would have seen what happened in the COVID. We were all fearful of it. So much uncertainty all around. What did you all do? We all worked as a team and prepared ourselves. So fear can make us work in teams and get prepared. One thing that happens when you are afraid, you imagine and create all scenarios in your mind so that you can prepare for it better. Your mind opens up the clogs in your brain. I happened to write 6 books after something that I got afraid of. So it leads to creativity and imagination and innovation. Fear does that. On a very personal note, not too in the distant past, I had a fight with my dear wife and I had a fear of losing her. It made me introspect and analyze the situation, which led to a deeper and a better relationship going forward. So introspection and analysis, another very powerful outcome of the power of fear. A decade ago, I was trekking in the hills of Himachal and I was listening to my music, watching my mobile. Suddenly I fell down on a rock. My entire, still have the mark here. The flesh came out, mud went in. I went to a government hospital. I got infected. Cut the long story short, after that, I never took a step in the mountain without focusing on what I was doing. So that fear in my mind made me focus and concentrate. The same happens when I go to a board meeting when I'm afraid of some questions getting asked. I concentrate. Or when I have a fear of a deal getting lost, I pull all my concentration power. So focus and concentration is something that, the power of fear. Early days in my career, I was bored to death in a large multinational, and this fear of actually really stagnating made me switch to a BPO. It was a new fad at that time, business process outsourcing. And within a month, I realized this was not my cup of tea with all the night shifts, etc. So I jumped back again to the mainstream. I used that learning from that BPO to set up a similar BPO outfit for that international company. So bold steps have to be taken when you're fearful. It makes you take risk, be more daring. In my childhood days in school, the only time I got slapped by someone, hopefully the last time, was when a few of us boys were walking around, and when school boys walk, there are always girls involved. So it led to some of the boys calling the elder brothers big brutes. One of them came and slapped me. I lived in fear for the next 3-4 hours. But I took my elder boys, the elder boys, and went to his house and made him beg me for forgiveness. But I tell you, the adrenaline rush that I had for these few hours, there's nothing to beat that. So fear can lead to a lot of fun, excitement. It can be a confidence booster, which it did to me for sure. In the company that I'm associated with currently, we have more than 2 lakhs people. And they all have to come on time, well turned out. Because if they don't, they have the fear of losing their jobs. The clients might ask them to leave, which leads to discipline. It's the fear of losing a job that creates that discipline, which is so important. Why only the people out there? Let's look at the business in totality. We cannibalize some of our own traditional businesses so that we can adopt more tech-enabled businesses, because we fear that our mainstream business can be disrupted by such tech-enabled businesses later on. So it leads to discipline and adaptability. So very important in your business life also. One of my colleagues in an earlier company, in some rush of stupidity, he touched a female staff who had come from overseas inappropriately. I came to know about it. I confronted him, and that fear of humiliation, shame, and even a bit of retribution, he confessed everything, and never in his life he did anything of that sort again. So that fear leads to morals and integrity, that framework which keeps the society going also. Last, again from a business perspective, in my very first job, I was posted in Chennai in an automobile plant, and we had to convert an assembly line into just-in-time assembly to increase the productivity. The laborers were totally against it. But when their incentives were linked to this productivity, they quickly fell in line. So it is the fear of that losing money that can improve the productivity and the efficiency. Talking about which, I remember in my IIT days, all of us hated the summers. Summers was when you failed in a particular course and you had to again stay back in the horrible summers of Mumbai and retake that particular course, which made us all make sure, at least me, that you work very efficiently and pass those courses. So it can, that fear of something, that staying back out there in the summers, can lead to better efficiency. So now that we have discussed all the growth potential areas from an experience of fear, let us now look at 10 ways of managing this growth potential better. I will call it as proactive fear management. Firstly, make sure that the fear is in the mind and body, but it does not come out in your eyes or in your voice. The world should not know that you're fearful. Internally, use fear as a tool. Get all the benefits of fear from created in your mind and your body, but let your inner self, your soul, your consciousness control this fear. Create this fear like a package of special steroids inside of you and use its power as long as you don't get powerless. So, mind and body is where it starts, and mind and body is what helps prepare. So, let us go through those particular areas. First is learning from fear. Any experiences that has caused fear, you learn from it. Next time you're better prepared. The second, which is very close to my heart and my mind, is meditation. It helps you accept fear. It helps temper your reactions, your emotions, how you control them when you're faced with fear. The third is simulation modeling. Mind is a great simulator. It can keep simulating all scenarios which help you get better prepared when you face that particular fearful situation. The fourth is about correlating, mapping, pattern recognition. You can put a particular fear in one category and see the pattern in another category. You can relate to that. The fifth is contextualize. Imagine the degree of the impact of this fear. Will it really cause something that you'll remember at the time of your death? So you can contextualize that way. Then comes ikigai in Japanese, which is having a purpose in life, makes you get up. Once you have that, all these different pockets of fear that keep coming in your path, you can overcome that because you have a ikigai, a purpose. The next one is very important. It's about keeping the balance. Do not ignore the fear and do not freeze in front of fear. You got to keep that balance. Now, these are the parts of the mind that help you get better prepared. Come to the body now. You have to keep yourself healthy. Your immune system should be strong enough to face fear and fight fear and to use the power of fear. And in order to keep your mind and your body well, what do you need to do? You need to sleep well. A very often ignored part in our lives currently. You need to sleep well to be able to again gain from all of this that we're talking. And your mind, your body, your sleep, all of that, there's one part that is again gaining in popularity is your spiritual strength and faith. Keep that alive, part of our normal life. Fear him. Just like Marie Curie had said, nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Thank you all. Been a pleasure talking to you.
The winner of the competition, Share Your Own Power of Your Story, is Sahitya S from Section D, PGPM batch of 2022. This is me, Sampurna Basu, signing off for the day, and see you all next year at TEDx IIMTrichy. Thank you.